All right. Hey, what's up? It's your girl Nique, and you're tuned in to Nique at Night. At first, it was saying that I wasn't live, and then I started to see the number go up, and I'm like, clearly I gotta be live. So, anyways, hey, what's up? It's your girl Nique, and you're tuned in to Nique at Night. Now, it is the wee hours of the night, and this stream is strictly for the true night owls because we are up and it is late, and we're gonna get into some things. Now, in this live, we're gonna be going over d4vd, Mr. David and Celeste Rivas case. Now, if you guys are not familiar with this case, we've talked about this several times on my channel. David currently has a preliminary hearing that people have been hearing all of the evidence that they have been introducing and what they intend to show when he goes to trial. Now, I'm going to give you guys a brief recap of the case, if just in case you've been under a rock, you're not familiar with this story, you don't really know what's going on. Let me give you guys a brief update on it. So, if you're trying to basically catch up on what this case is about, the core things is David Anthony Burke. He appeared in court in LA County, orange jumpsuit. He's facing very severe charges connected to the horrific discovery of human remains. The root of this case stretches back to February 2024, when authorities first initiated a welfare check regarding a missing 13-year-old girl named Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Now, the investigation blew wide open in September 2025 when a Hollywood tow yard manager reported a strong decomposition odor coming from a black Tesla registered to Burke. Upon inspecting the vehicle's front trunk, a frunk, law enforcement discovered a black vinyl cadaver bag containing a dismembered human torso and head, alongside several limbs packed into a separate trash bag. So in the hearing that they have now, they're basically going over all of the evidence that they have on him. So one of the key people who testified in this preliminary hearing was a detective or a deputy that did a welfare check when Celeste first went missing. So as you guys know, or some of you guys may not know, there was all these headlines that Celeste was a missing person, and she had been missing from the first time all the way back in February of 2024. Well, this deputy went to David's house to try to check and see if Celeste is there, if he knew anything about her, because at this time, before she actually lost her life, she was a runaway. And they had got tipped off that she possibly was with this singer, David. So the detective goes to his Hollywood home to try to see if she's there, and they have him testify. So in day one of the hearing, it was testimony from the law enforcement deputy Juan Gonzalez, where he detailed a February 2024 welfare check at Burke's West Hollywood studio house, where Burke spoke with officers. Meanwhile, LAPD homicide detective Joshua Byers walked into the courtroom through the grim forensic details, including unique identifying tattoos, surgical amputations on the remains, and a digital trail of cell phone and surveillance data, he was basically tying Burke to the vehicle and to the evidence. The prosecution in this matter is being led by Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, while Burke's defense is spearheaded by a high-profile attorney, Blair Burke, alongside Regina Peter and Marilyn Bednarski. So let's go to the transcripts, because I was able to get my hands on the transcripts of day one of this preliminary hearing. I'm going to read to you guys some of the things that was uncovered during the hearing. Shout out to Down the Rabbit Hole News. She was able to provide us with day one's transcripts, and we're going to go over them here with you guys. So definitely check out Down the Rabbit Hole News. She is going over everything as it pertains to the David case. She's going over each day, giving people constant updates, and she even has a stream where she read through the transcripts as well. But over on my channel, we're going to do it over here for you guys. So let me pull up the transcripts. And where's my watermark? I think I had a watermark. Why does it always disappear when it's time for me to read transcripts out of this thing? Hold on. Let me see if I can find my watermark real quick. And then we'll get started. Where's the watermark? Okay, hold on 1 second. All right, so I got me a little measly little watermark, child. And all right, so this is the transcripts, and we're gonna skip ahead all the way to direct examination of the officer. So basically, when the court started, there was a request where they wanted David not to be shackled. So like the beginning, they addressed the court. They were trying to get him to not be shackled to the court, and that was something that was discussed amongst a few other things. But we're going to skip ahead and we're going to go directly to Juan Gonzalez's testimony, this deputy that did this welfare check when Celeste was missing. So let me pull this up. All right. And we are on page 22. All right, so this is the direct examination by Miss Silverman. And it says, "Sir, can you tell us how it is that you're employed?" He says, "I'm a deputy sheriff with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I'm currently assigned to the West Hollywood station where I've been for the past 8 years. Question, how many years have you been employed as a deputy sheriff? 14. I want to direct your attention back a couple years ago to February 17, 2024. Did you respond to that evening to a request from Riverside Sheriff's Department to conduct a welfare check at the home of an individual by the name of David Burke?" Answer, I did, ma'am. Question, and what was at that location of 804 North Doheny Drive in West Hollywood? It was, and approximately what time did you go out to the location? He says, I don't recollect the exact time, but if I remember from my memory, it was nighttime hours. Approximately 7 p.m. Or does that refresh your recollection, or do you need to look at your reports? And then he responded, that refreshes my recollection, ma'am. And then she says, and did you go out alone or were you with a partner that evening? I was not by myself. Deputy Thomas went with me. She was not assigned to my car. She had her own unit. I think she was my assist that day. Question, so you went out there together? Answer, yes, ma'am. Question, you met there? Answer, yes. Question, and what was your purpose that night along with Deputy Thomas? Answer, to simply check the house, the residence, to see if a minor female was there by the name of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and I was supposed to speak with a gentleman that was residing at the residence. And where did you get the information about this particular minor's name and age? So he says, I believe from when I initially called the handling detective, Detective Rivas. Question. And Detective Rivas, was he a sheriff detective or is he in Riverside County Sheriff's? Answer. He's a Riverside County Sheriff. Okay. And were you also informed that the individual at this home at 804 Doheny Drive was informed that you would be coming to do such check? Yes. And then Miss Burke, objection, leading. And then the judge, I'll allow it as foundational. The officer, yes, ma'am. I believe Detective Rivas advised me over the phone that the gentleman who was residing at the residence knew I was coming. Question. Did he give you a name for that individual? Answer. I believe it was David Burke. Miss Silverman, Your Honor, I'm going to ask to mark again, as I indicated, they're going to be out of order. People's Exhibit 2, which is titled Studio House, 804 North Doheny Drive in West Hollywood. And this particular exhibit has two photographs of the exterior of the home. And then the judge says it'll be so marked for identification purposes. And then she said, thank you. He said, question, showing you Exhibit 2, and I understand these were taken during daylight hours, but do you recognize this particular location? He said, yes, ma'am. That looks like the residence that I went to that evening. Let me sit over. Somebody said, I wish you were at the courthouse. I don't think I'm going to cover this one in person. But I don't know. We'll see how I feel once the trial actually starts. But for this preliminary hearing and the information that they said that they were going to show, they were basically saying that they have 40 gigs of data, that there was graphic videos of that type of nature. There was going to be dismemberment of like limbs and body parts and stuff like that. And, initially my daughter's 12. I mean, not 12, child. My daughter she just turned 13 this summer. She's like around that same age. And so with that, and then the graphic nature, and then all of the gory stuff, and then the video material, I don't know that I really want that in my head, like to see it myself. But again, we'll see how I feel if my mind changes once the trial starts. But for the preliminary hearing, I'm good. We'll see. I gotta settle my mind around that. I don't know if I want to really see all of that. And I feel like, this particular case, it has a lot of influencers covering it at the courthouse. So I feel like when it's cases like that, when it's like 30, 40 influencers all at the courthouse, everybody has a platform that's there. Like, I don't know, I kind of shy away from those cases. Like, I did that with the Diddy trial. And after the Diddy trial, I said that I would be also, in addition to like the gory details and all that, I said that I would be more selective with like which cases I go to. I don't want to just go to a case in person just because it's in LA and just because it's a case to go to. I want to be selective with which ones I choose as well. So we'll see how I feel. I feel like it's oversaturated with influencers, but since I got my hands on the transcripts, why not read it to y'all? So, with that being said, let me see. Where were we? Wait, are we on the same page? Hold on, wait. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so it says, question. On the evening of February 17th, 2024, yes, ma'am. And Your Honor, I have another exhibit. This will be the People's Exhibit 3. Please, again, state title, two photographs. These are aerial photographs. And then it says, so marked for identification. She says, showing you Exhibit 3. Is this the location of this residence as we see here in West Hollywood? And on the photograph in the right, it is outlined in red. He says, yes, ma'am. I remember when I first entered the location, it was through that driveway. Okay, when you got to the front door of the residence, did somebody answer the door? He says, yes, ma'am. She says, and who was that? Mr. David Burke. And do you see him here in the courtroom? Answer, I do, ma'am. Can you identify him for us, either describing where he is seated or what he is wearing, or point to him in some manner? He says, the young man with LA County orange jumpsuit. And then the judge says, indicating Mr. Burke for the record. All right, so it says, And was there anybody else that came to the door with him at that time? And answer, no, just by himself. Question, and did you find any other individuals in the home? Answer, no, ma'am. Question, did you go into the house? Answer, yes. Question, did you have a conversation with him about this minor that you were looking for, this missing person by the name of Celeste Rivas Hernandez? I did, ma'am. And what was the defendant's response? I think we initially asked him, is Celeste there? He stated no. We proceeded to ask him, when was the last time you spoke to her? And I believe he stated February 13th. And then I asked, when was the last time you actually saw her? At which point he told me, I believe November 12th. And then question, the year before, as in 2023? Answer, yes, ma'am. Question, and did he also provide you some information regarding this missing person? Answer, I think I asked him, how did you meet her? And he said he met her through Facebook or Instagram and through an online chatting group, chat by name of Discord. Okay, did he tell you when that was? I believe he stated 2020, 2021? Question, okay, and did he act like he was very familiar with this individual, that they had some sort of a close relationship, or the opposite of that? Ms. Burke, the defense says, objection, calls for speculation. The judge says, you can describe what his demeanor was or what he said. He basically said he just met her through that online chat. They met one time in person, and from my conversation with him briefly, I took it as he really didn't know her. Did he provide a phone number for her? He did, ma'am. Question, and do you recall that phone number? Answer, I don't know it by memory. Question, okay, and did he also show you some photographs on his phone? Answer, he did, ma'am. Question, and what were those photographs depicting? Answer, I believe the first photograph he showed me was of the young lady in like a school picture. Question, a school photograph? Answer, yes, ma'am. And then the judge says, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Miss Silverman. I just want to make sure I have the dates correct. You were talking about Mr. Burke last speaking to Celeste on February 13th, 2024, and last seeing her on 2023. Is that correct? Because I'm showing the offense date in this complaint as April 23rd of 2025. So I just want to make sure I'm correct in my time frame. She says, yes. So I believe the deputy testified, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that he only met her once, and that was November of 2023. The judge says, okay. She says back to him, he says, but he last spoke with her, according to the defendant, on February 13th of 2024. And then the judge says, okay. And then she says, and met her through an Instagram chat or Facebook, and then through an online platform, Discord. Either the deputy said 2021 or 2020 or 2021. Is that correct? And then the judge says, is that correct? And then he's asking the witness, and then the witness says, that sounds correct. And then the judge says, okay, thank you, Your Honor. You may continue. Question. And the photograph that he showed you, you said a school photograph. Would that be like a yearbook photograph? Answer. I believe so, ma'am. Question. Well, did it appear to be a photograph that had other children around her photo with names? And then he said, that's correct. And did he also show you another photograph? I believe towards the end of my conversation, he showed me another photograph of like an Instagram post of her missing poster flyer. I don't know if it was like a police bolo or if it was just like an Instagram post of a missing child. Got it. Thank you. And then the judge says, you said a missing child flyer? Yes, ma'am. Okay, the judge says. Ms. Silverman says, Your Honor, I have another exhibit that is marked as Exhibit 4. If it could be so marked, and it's titled Screenshot of Defendant Showing Victim's Yearbook Photo to LASD, February 17th of 2024, and there's 2 photographs on this exhibit. So it is so marked. Question. And then so they show these, I guess, photographs that was marked for identification. Showing you exhibit number 4, is this the way the defendant looked when you went to his house on the evening of February 17th, 2024? Yes, ma'am. And looking at the photograph on the right, does it appear to be a close-up of the yearbook or school photo that he showed you of the individual he indicated he had met once? Yes. Your Honor, I have another exhibit. If it could be marked People's Exhibit 55, and it is titled Missing Persons Poster Shown by the Defendant to LASD. And it has 1 photograph on the page, and then they marked it. Question. Showing you Exhibit 55, and does this appear to be the photograph or the missing persons poster that you described that the defendant showed you he had on his phone? Yes, ma'am. Question. Did you tell the defendant while you were at his home at 804 North Doheny that the missing person in this case was in fact 13 years old? Answer. Yes, I did. Question. At some point, did you and your partner that evening, Deputy Thomas, search for signs of this missing girl? Answer. Yes, ma'am. Both of us did. Question. And what was with the defendant's consent? And was that with the defendant's consent? My bad, child. It's late. I be fucking up when it's not late, but I'm gonna blame my mess ups on the fact that it's late. But anyways, if you guys are listening to this and you are listening on the playback, you can speed me through listening to this by changing the playback speed. So if you're at home and you're like, okay, I want to hear this a little bit quicker, Nick ain't reading it fast enough, on the playback, not y'all that's sitting with me live, y'all got to sit and just listen in the regular speed. But if you're at home listening to this on the playback, you can go into the settings, go to playback speed, and then you can speed me up to as fast or as slow as you want. With that being said, you can also donate to my channel, okay? so that you can support more readings like this at NiqueAtNiteMedia. Now, let's continue. Question: did you find anything there that would perhaps be specific to a young girl? Answer: I tried to do a thorough search for her, tried to look for anything that pertained to a female, such as makeup, hygiene products. I didn't see anything. The only thing I remember seeing was some Hello Kitty stuff. That kind of stuck out for me. But I remember when speaking with him, he said this is like an artist's home, not his home, that a lot of people are in and out of. Question: so you didn't see any makeup, you didn't see any hygiene products? Answer: no, ma'am. Question: and you didn't find Celeste at this location? No. Did you speak with any of the sheriffs from Riverside County Sheriff's Department while you were at the defendant's studio, house, or residence? Answer: yes, ma'am. While I was still inside the residence, I went ahead and called Detective Rivas and told him of the information that I had and that we searched the place. Question: okay, and did the defendant tell you who he was? Answer: I'm sorry, ma'am. Could you ask me one more time? Sure. Did the defendant tell you who he was or what he did for a living? Answer: oh, Mr. David Burke. I know at some point he stated that he was an artist. Did he tell you what kind of artist? Answer: like an indie pop type of artist singer. Question: did you recognize him? Answer: no, ma'am. I have never seen him nor heard of any of his music before. Or question: or heard his name? Answer: no. Did you or your partner that night, Deputy Thomas, although you came separately to the residence, did you each have body-worn video on? Answer: yes, ma'am. Okay. And did you take any photographs while you were at the defendant's temporary residence? Yes, ma'am. I believe I took a photograph of his ID and the photographs he showed me of Miss Celeste. Your Honor, I have a DVD that contains body-worn video from the deputy. It is cut down at the beginning and at the end on the area outside of the residence, and it depicts the events that took place on February 17th of 2024. May I have it marked, please, as Exhibit 5A? It'll be so marked for identification. All right. So they have this body cam footage, and it says, and I am placing LASDBWV for body worn video on the actual DVD and indicating it's been redacted. It is appropriate. It is approximately, Your Honor, 10.5 minutes in length. I also have a transcript. May that be marked, please, as People's 5B? So marked for our identification. And it is 9 pages in length, and I've sent a copy to counsel. If I could provide the court a copy of the transcript and your clerk the DVD. Thank you. And Your Honor, there would be a stipulation on behalf of the people that if the court wants to entertain that your reporter does not have the transcribe the contents of the video. All right, so stipulated. Deputy, in reviewing that body worn video, does the video appear to be accurate in terms of the observations you made, the conversations that you had, and that evening of February 17th of 2024 with the defendant? So basically, they showed this body cam video to the court. Yes, ma'am. Okay. And did the transcript also appear to be accurate? Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor. All right. Cross-examination. So he was crossed by Miss Peter. Question. Deputy, having watched the body-worn video, there was at one point where you actually told Mr. Burke that Celeste Rivas was 13 years old. Was there? Answer. I believe we spoke about that. He stated that she believed that he told him that she was 18. But then I guess somebody had told him, whoever that was, that she was actually 13. And at some point I asked him, does she look 13? And he said no. Question: when you went to the house that night, did you know one way or the other whether Celeste Rivas Hernandez was underage? Answer: I believe I did after speaking to the detective first, ma'am. And when you were with Mr. Burke and at his residence, I think your words to him were, I guess she's 13. Is that right? Answer: if that's what I said on the video. Question: you described Mr. Burke as overall being cooperative with the reason why you were at the house, correct? Yes, very cooperative. Question: there was actually one point where Mr. Burke was trying to volunteer information to you, and you actually stopped him from talking, right? Yes, ma'am. Question: you told him you were not investigating anything, right? Answer: as far as myself and the LA County Sheriff's Department, we didn't have a case against him. I didn't know. As far as I knew, I was delegated a task, which was to look for a missing girl. I don't know what kind of case the detective from Riverside County Sheriff's Department had. So I was delegated a task, and that was what my task was. Question: when you spoke with Mr. Burke, he gave you Celeste Rivas Hernandez's full name, provided that information to you. Answer: yes, ma'am. Question: he also provided you with her last phone number digit by digit. Yes, ma'am. He also indicated to you he had previously spoken with a Riverside officer, correct? Yes. And he volunteered that he wanted to recap to you everything he had previously told the Riverside officer. Answer: from that statement where he was beginning to talk, it sounded like he wanted to tell me what he told that Riverside detective. But again, I didn't know what kind of case Riverside was dealing with or what they were investigating. So that's why I said I'm only here to look for her, and that's it. Question: and one of those statements that Mr. Burke made, he on his own said, she told me she was 18, right? Answer: yes. Question: and when you asked Mr. Burke for photographs, he showed you multiple photographs as we saw on the body worn video. Answer: yes, ma'am. Question: and at one point you actually asked him, does she look 13? Answer: yes, I did ask him that. Question: and is that because when you were looking at the photo, the image depicted somebody who didn't appear to be 13 years old? Answer: I wouldn't be able to tell you why I asked him that, but I know at the moment something that I asked, I don't know why. Nothing further, Your Honor. All right, so they went to redirect, and now it is back to Miss Silverman. Question: the word cooperative means that the person is forthcoming, right? Answer: yes, ma'am. And therefore telling the truth, right? Objection: argumentative. The judge says, I'll allow it, but I will not allow from either side, either this proceeding or at trial, if we get to that stage, is that one witness cannot give an opinion as to the veracity of another witness. So I will allow Ms. Silverman to explore what cooperative means to the witness, but given an opinion as to whether or not Mr. Burke was truthful, the court will not allow. All right, question: do you use the term cooperative in the assumption that someone is telling the truth? Answer: I'm a police officer, so my job is to make my own opinion based on facts. I believe he was telling me the truth. Question: okay. Answer: based on his demeanor? Question: Hence why, based on his demeanor, you said yes. Question. Hence why he seemed very casual, talking with food in his mouth, talking about beer in the fridge, having a party, things of that nature. Objection. Counsel is testifying. Overruled. I'll allow it. Yes, ma'am. Question. And so you assumed he was being truthful with you, and therefore you said, yes, I believe he was being very cooperative, right? Answer, yes. Question. Did he tell you that he had been having a hanky-panky relationship with this underage girl for several months? Objection, relevant, argumentative. Well, it's clearly relevant. This is what the judge says. The judge says, well, it's clearly relevant, but at this point, it assumes facts not in evidence. So you can ask him why he believed he was cooperative. The tape speaks for itself as to what was said and what wasn't said. Question. Did he ever mention to you that he had been having a grown-up relationship with her? Objection. The evidence speaks for itself. The video assumes facts not in evidence. The court sustained. You may move on. Okay. Question. Did the defendant ever tell you that he assisted the victim in the plan to run away? That he picked her up from her home in Lake Elsinore? Same objection. Question. To come to his home. The court sustained. At this point, it assumes facts not in evidence. All right. I have nothing further. All right. Anything further? Nothing further. You may step down, sir. And then it says, people you may call your next witness, Ms. Silverman. Yes, the people calls Detective Josh Byer. All right. So he was sworn in. And then it says he said he spelled out his name. And then he's on direct. All right. So let me go to the same page. Somebody said, you can be cooperative and be lying. Facts. You definitely can be cooperative and be telling a whole lie. Okay. You can be telling a whole lie. All right. So let me see. Okay. So all right, so Detective Josh Byers is a LAPD homicide special section. He testified about being out on September 8th, 2025, and he went to the Hollywood Tow impound lot. And after the tow yard manager noticed the strong smell of decomposition odor coming from the black Tesla, that was what his testimony was about. He cited that on September 3rd, they impounded and all. So let's get into his. So he is going to talk about what the body was like when he got there. So, mind you, she was found on this tow yard. And when they went to the tow yard, it was because they smelled this foul odor. So the next witness is going to talk about what he uncovered once he got there. So when he got there, he saw, maggots, the cadaver bag, all of these different things. And he's going to walk us through what that was like. Now, before I go there, let me take a sip of my Gatorade. Hey, somebody said, damn, I caught a live. Hey, Nick, what's up? How many of y'all are still up with me? It is 3 a.m. for me. That means it's 6 a.m. for some of y'all, 3 a.m. for some of y'all. Where y'all watching from? And what are y'all doing right now before we go to the next person's testimony? Where's everybody tuned in from? And what time is it where you're at? Somebody said it's almost 6. Oh wait, no. It's almost 6 a.m. here. Someone says, oh, that's Stevie. He on the West Coast. On my way to work in Ohio. She said, Florida. Girl, I'm on Cali time. Okay. I see you, girl. Somebody said, I'm watching from Phoenix, Arizona. Another person says Florida. Another person says Indiana. Stevie says LA, Cali. She says 4:55 in Alabama. Bay Area. Okay. Somebody said they tuning in from Detroit, friends, 6 a.m. Okay, the night owls is in a building. Arlington, Texas, and it's almost 5 a.m. Need to be asleep for work in a few hours. Okay, well, turn us on in the background and just fall asleep while we chatting. All right, so is this Virginia in the house, Mississippi in the house, Connecticut in the house, STL in the house, St. Louis, okay. Is this Alabama? Arkansas? Okay. All right, check y'all out. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, happy belated birthday. Happy belated birthday to you. All right, we got Chicago. We got the UK in the building. Chicago, Atlanta. All right, period. Okay, Atlanta, come through. Vegas. Okay, we got Vegas. Check y'all out. New Orleans. Okay, chill, period. All right. So, let's get back to it. Somebody said, I work and listen. Okay, shout out to you. All right, so Joshua is going to walk us through what it was like to find her body in the trunk. All right, so he's under the direct from Miss Silverman, and it says, can you tell us what your occupation and assignment is, please? Answer, yes, I'm a police detective for the Los Angeles Police Department, and I'm currently assigned to the Robbery Homicide Division. Question, and how many years have you been assigned to the Robbery and Homicide Division? Answer, I've been at the Robbery Homicide for about 12 and sworn police officer for just over 26. In what section of Robbery Homicide are you assigned to? I'm assigned to the Homicide Special Section. And what do you do in the Homicide Special Section of Robbery Homicide Division? Answer, at Robbery Homicide Division, Homicide Special Section, we are responsible for investigating the murder of police officers, crimes against police officers, any multiple over 3 homicides in one incident, any what would be considered a high-profile homicide, or really any case that is designated as such by our chief. Question, so complex homicides and high-profile homicides. Answer, yes, ma'am. And do you work with a partner? I do. And who is your partner? My partner is Detective Corey Farrell. Question, and for how many years have you and Detective Farrell been working together? Answer, off and on, we've been partners for probably 8 years, maybe longer. 8 to 10 years, I would say. Question, I want to direct your attention to September 8th of 2025. Were you called out to a police tow yard at 1015 Mansfield Avenue? What is the Hollywood tow yard? Answer, yes. Question, and what was the reason that you were called out there? Answer, we were called out to at death, what was initially a death investigation, meaning a body was found in the front trunk of a vehicle at the Hollywood Toll impound lot. Question. And what is the front trunk on a Tesla called? I've been told it's called a frunk. Question. And when you went out to the location, did you speak with various detectives from LAPD who initially responded? Answer. Yes, our West Bureau homicide section was initially called by Hollywood Division detectives who initially responded. So I spoke with the West Bureau homicide detectives. So when you went to this location, what is it that you were expecting to find? Answer. A body in a trunk. That was the initial. There was not a lot of information that was passed initially, so my information was gathered as I arrived on the scene. Question. And once you arrived on scene, were you briefed by some of these detectives? Answer. Yes. Question. And were you also told, did you learn that this particular vehicle, this Tesla, had been impounded at some point by the Department of Transportation? Answer. Yes. I came to find that the vehicle was impounded. It was cited by Department of Transportation on September 3rd and impounded on the 5th and to the impound lot of the Hollywood Tow. And was there also some documentation on the windshield of that vehicle that you subsequently observed that also confirmed that date? Answer. Yes. There was a parking citation by DOT that was on the driver's side windshield. Question. And did you speak with did you speak also with individuals at the tow yard personnel that worked there regarding why it is that they called LAPD's Hollywood Auto Detective Division? Answer. Yes, the manager doing a walkthrough of the impound area had noticed a strong odor emitting from a vehicle and identified that vehicle because the odor was so strong, and then called into the Hollywood detectives. And did you observe the same? Answer. Yes. Question. What did you observe? Can you describe it for us? Answer. When I arrived on screen, on screen, child, on scene. When I arrived on scene, the vehicle was a black Tesla with Texas license plates, had the front open, and there was a partially unzipped black body bag with a dismembered torso and head and missing some extremities at the time. Question. And were you able to smell for yourself anything with respect to the vehicle that was distinctive to you? Answer. Yes. I mean, I worked homicides for the better part of 18 or so years. So I have investigated many cases where you have decomposition of a human body, and it's a very distinctive odor that comes on field investigations, as well as attending numerous autopsies at the coroner's office, where you have that same decomposing, very distinctive smell. Question. Were you able to determine with respect to this vehicle, this black Tesla with the Texas license plates, who the vehicle was registered to? Answer. Yes. Utilizing department resources, the vehicle was registered to David Anthony Burke with an address. And I think the address was in Cypress, Texas. I don't recall the numbers offhand. Question. Now, you mentioned that that there was a body bag in the front trunk area that was unzipped. Answer. Partially unzipped. When the initial responding officer and detectives went out to the scene at the request of the tow, Miss Burke, Your Honor, I would object as non-responsive. Move the strike, everything. Well, everything after the initial answer is unresponsive, is what the judge says. If you want to ask your next question, Miss Silverman, sure. The judge, the latter portion will be stricken. Question: were you in your conversations with the initial detectives who responded to the scene? Did they explain why the front trunk or the frunk was open and the body bag partially unzipped? Answer: yes. Question: and what did you learn about that? Answer: that when they were called to the impound lot, they authored a search warrant to open the trunk due to the smell that they believed was also a decomposing body. Opened the trunk, partially unzipped the body bag, and saw human remains. Question: and in terms of the body bag, can you describe that for us? Answer: it was a black kind of vinyl plastic body bag, had various handles or straps around it, and then a singular zipper that ran kind of from top to bottom. Question: like a cadaver bag? Answer: yes, ma'am. Your Honor, I have a set of 2 photographs. It is titled Body Bag, containing victim's head and torso and front trunk, with the date of September 8th, 2025. May I have this marked, please, as the People's 14? So marked for identification purposes. So they show this picture and it says, let's begin by talking about the photograph on the left. Tell us, if you would, what were you looking at here? So once the county medical examiner came to the scene, they removed that first cadaver bag or body bag from the front trunk and placed it on the ground. And underneath that cadaver bag was a second, what looked like a black garbage bag with blue handles. It was underneath the body bag, the bottom of the storage of the trunk. Question: so, Your Honor, it looks like I put 15 on the record instead. This is 2 photos as well. It's titled Garbage Bag, containing victim's arms and legs and front trunk. Same date. If this could be marked as the People's 14. All right, and so they corrected that error. And then she said, question: what do we see in the trunk around the black plastic bag? Answer: there was insect activity, there was maggots, there was various stages of flies, so kind of a progression of decomposition from larvae to maggots to flies. And then there was, I don't know how to describe all the other liquidy decaying matter. Question: okay, so the trunk area in the bag, it was wet, not dry? Answer: yes, correct. It was wet. Question: and at some point, was this trash bag, this black plastic trash bag that we see here with the blue, some type of drawstring handle, was it open? Answer: it was. It was partially open in the trunk and then removed, taken out of the trunk, placed on the ground, and then the bag was open where you could see various limbs of a body, arms, legs that have been severed. Question: okay, let's go back to the People's Exhibit 14 for a moment. The judge, and I'm sorry, right now it's the People's 15. We don't have a People's 14. Okay, then I'll start again. People's 14. If I could have this marked, Your Honor, it's titled Body Bag, containing victim's head and torso and front trunk, dated September 8th, 2025, and it has 2 photographs. That'll be so marked as the People's 14. All right, question: looking at the photograph on the left, what do you see? What do we see here? Answer: it's kind of hard to tell, at least on my picture, but that is the black cadaver bag that is in the front trunk. That was in the front trunk. Okay. that picture that was taken actually at the tow yard? Answer, yes. All these photos so far have been at the tow yard. Question, with the front trunk in the open position? Answer, correct. Question, and then if we look at the photograph to the right on the People's 14, what are we looking at here? Answer, there you see the head and the torso minus the limbs for the most part. That's what was discovered when the body was removed and completely unzipped. That's what remained in the body bag, cadaver bag. Question, at some point in time, was the medical examiner's office notified? Answer, yes. Prior to anything being removed from the trunk, the ME's office, medical examiner's office, their criminalists responded to the impound lot. Question, okay. And hence, and once they arrived on scene, do you then, as in all homicide cases, process the scene alongside of them? Answer, yes. Question, and their jurisdiction, does that pertain to the actual decedent's body? Answer, yes. In this case, they did all of the, I guess, hands-on investigation regarding this body. No search of the vehicle aside from opening the trunk was done during our initial investigation. Question, okay. And then as you, along with your partner and personnel from the medical examiner's department, process the body, are there discussions that take place as to various items of evidence and also the condition of the body? Answer, yes. Question, now, once the body was removed from the trunk, or the front trunk, as you told us in Exhibit 15, you've described that there was a black plastic trash bag, as we see here in the photograph on the left of People's 15, that was found underneath. Is that correct? Answer, correct. All right, question. And once that bag was open, what did you observe? Answer, once that bag was open, I observed 2 severed arms and 2 legs, but the legs had also been severed at another point, kind of by the kneecap. So there was almost like 4 points to the legs and then 2 arms. Question, in terms of the diameter of the front trunk area of the Tesla, is that a small area? Answer, it is the kind of top portion of the trunk is a little larger, and then as you come to the front of the storage compartment, it dips down, but it's very narrow and not very wide. Question, so looking at the photograph to the right of the People's 15, is that what you observed once this black plastic trash bag was open? Yes. And were photographs taken of this process at the tow yard as initially the cadaver bag was fully open and removed from the trunk? Answer, yes. Photos were taken by LAPD's photographer, as well as photos were taken by the criminalists from the medical examiner's office. Question, and were additional photographs taken once the cadaver bag was removed from the front trunk? The plastic bag containing the limbs, the severed limbs, as we've seen in Exhibit 15. Were photographs also taken by both LAPD and the Department of Medical Examiner? Answer, yes. All right. So question, did you notice anything unusual about the cut surfaces of the limbs? The Miss Burke says, objection, calls for improper opinion. Miss Silverman says, this is just basic observation, Your Honor. The judge, all right. All right. Miss Silverman says, I'm not asking for any expert. The court, that's fine. I'll allow him to indicate his observations. If there is opinion elicited, you may renew your objection. Miss Burke says, thank you. All right. So the witness, yes. It was very obvious there was these blue pieces of plastic or some type of fiber that seemed to be embedded in the cut surfaces at various points on the body. Miss Silverman, Your Honor, I have an exhibit that I'd like to have marked as the People's Exhibit 44. It is titled Medical Examiner Number 25-1452, September 2025. Blue plastic fragments embedded in the right knee. All right, so it is marked for identification. She says, thank you. All right, question. Showing you People's 44 and looking at these little blue pieces, is this what you're talking about on the various cut ends of the severed limbs? Answer, yes. There were several little pieces, some darker blue, some lighter blue, but they definitely stood out because there were many of them. Question. Did you notice anything else with respect to the hands of the decedent in this case? Answer, yes. I did notice on her right hand, she had a tattoo that said shh on her right index finger. And then on her left hand, there was the left ring finger and the left pinky finger had been removed and were not with the rest of the severed limbs. Question. When you say removed, you mean cut off, amputated? Answer, yes, ma'am. Your Honor, I have another set of 2 photographs on this exhibit that I'd like to have marked as People's 38. It is titled Tattoo on Victim's Right Index and Left Ring and Pinky Fingers. Amputated Medical Examiner at Hollywood Tow Yard, September 8th, 2025. All right. Question. Showing you these 2 photographs, starting with the one on the left, tell us what we're looking at here, please. Answer. So that was the left hand. That was found in the black trash bag, and it appeared to have the two left ring finger and the left pinky finger that had been severed. Okay, and the photograph on the right. Answer. The tattoo on her right index finger, the sh with the SHHH and ... was on the right hand index finger. Question. Okay, based on the condition of the decedent as she was removed from the front of the Tesla, was there a face where you could make out any facial features? Answer, no. There was quite a bit of decomposition to where the skin slippage and most made it unrecognizable. The judge, I'm going to go ahead and stop you there, Miss Silverman. We're going to go ahead and take our morning recess. We did have some morning matters, so I'll give the court reporter a break for 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please wait until I announce the break. If you do leave the courtroom, which you're certainly welcome to, please note where you're sitting so that we don't have any confusion. Take your same seats coming back, and we will be in a 15-minute recess, resuming at 11 o'clock. The court, all right, okay, so then they came back after recess, and Detective Byers is reminded that they are still under oath. All right, so let me look at the chat. What do you guys think so far? Listening to this, I cannot imagine like what she went through on Doomsday. You have this guy who has been grooming you since 13. Also, there was new evidence that was presented that prior to her losing her life, there was discussion about whether or not she was pregnant or not. Let me pull that up real quick before we read any more. So it was being reported that before she lost her life, there was discussion about pregnancy. Let me see. Let me put this on. All right. So right here it says disturbing. David's texts revealed in court include explicit images of the 14-year-old Celeste Rivas and conversation about her having an abortion after possibly being pregnant by him. So it says on Friday, evidence was presented suggesting that David had a grown-up abusive relationship with 13-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Detective Corey Farrell detailed text messages and photographs from Burke's cell phone, alleging that he impregnated Hernandez and pressured her to have an abortion in January 2024, just months before her disappearance and death. The court revealed intimate messages exchanged between Burke and Hernandez from November 2023 to March 2025. In these conversations, Burke showed concern about her possible pregnancy, urging her to arrange for an abortion. One exchange included him asking, "When you gonna get it done?" To which Hernandez replied, 2 days, affirming the grim reality of their situation. Additionally, the evidence included almost 50 photos depicting the pair in intimate situations, with Burke's phone lock screen showing a topless image of them together. Prosecutors allege that following Hernandez's death, Burke dismembered her body and even mutilated it to remove a tattoo of his name from her finger. All right, so that was the recent information that came out in court. Let's get back to the transcripts. What are y'all thinking so far? He's definitely sick. Sick. Like beyond. All right, let's get to it. All right, so the witness is back on the stand. Let me make sure that I got the right page up. All right. Okay, I remind you that you are under oath and we were on direct examination. All right, question. So on September 8th of 2025, when you were out at the tow yard, eventually, did you do something with the Tesla that day? Answer, yes. We had our LAPD tow transport the vehicle to our what we call Piper Tech, which is our kind of holding for vehicles for further processing. Question, Piper Technical Center that belongs to the LAPD? Answer, yes. And what was that? So the vehicle could be processed? Answer, yes. And that occurred the next day on September 9th? Answer, yes. Question, and were you present for that? Answer, I was. Question, and on September 8th, after the processing that was done by yourself, as well as medical examiner's department at the tow yard, was the decedent transported back to the Forensic Science Center? Answer, yes. Question, now did you also observe during the processing of the Tesla that took place, as you said, on September 9th of 2025, any documents or receipts or anything inside of the Tesla that you then followed up on? Answer, yes, I observed a receipt in the vehicle for a purchase made at Ross Dress for Less, which caused me to have detectives follow up to that location to attempt to retrieve any surveillance video according to that transaction that was made. Question, And was this the Ross Dress for Less located at 8985 Venice Boulevard? Answer, yes. Question, was there a date on that receipt that you found inside the Tesla? Answer, yes. It was July 29th, 2025. Question, and once the surveillance video from that Ross Dress for Less and once the surveillance video from that Ross Dress for Less was obtained, did you watch the video? Answer, yes. Question, and what did you observe on that video that was dated July 29th, 2025? Answer, so on that receipt, there was obviously a date and time of a transaction. So the surveillance video was from that transaction. And at that point, observed an individual making that transaction who I later determined to be the defendant, Mr. Burke. Question, okay, did you obtain any other surveillance video with respect to the defendant of the black Tesla? Answer, yes. There was surveillance video from numerous places that we actually recovered during our investigation. Question, and what surveillance video did you observe regarding the defendant and the interacting with that black Tesla that's registered to him? Answer, I observed video of that Tesla driving through kind of the Hollywood, or not Hollywood, Culver City, Los Angeles area, which appeared to be the route to and from what was later determined to be his residence address. Question, and where was that? Answer, that was 1368 Doheny Place, which there is some confusion with. 1368 is also identified as Vireo. Street signs are posted as Doheny Place, but then certain search engines like Google, Vireo comes up as that address, but they're the same place. 1368 Vireo and Doheny Place are one and the same. Question, in terms of that 1368 Doheny Place address, is that an address in the Hollywood Hills? Yes. Question, did you also obtain iCloud records registered to the defendant? Answer, yes. And did those show anything with respect to the defendant's interaction with the same black Tesla? Answer, yes. During the processing of the vehicle, one of the things we did was take screenshots of the Tesla infotainment system, the onboard computer, which shows navigation. It shows connects and disconnects from cell phones. So photographs were taken from that and then ultimately compared to his iCloud, which indicated a cell phone connection, which was identified as belonging to the defendant last disconnected on July 29th, 2025, around 2:15 or 2:18 p.m. Question, so that was the same day, the July 29th day, the same day as the receipt in the Tesla that you observed on September 9th, 2025, correct? Yes, correct. Question, did it appear that that was the last connection and then disconnection of his phone to the Tesla? Answer, yes. Question, did he have his phone programmed into the Tesla by a certain name? Answer, yes. It's an iPhone 16, and the name of that phone was Tranquilizer. Question, did you determine whether that phone titled or named Tranquilizer was associated with his iCloud account? Answer, yes. During a Cellbrite or an extraction of his iCloud, the reader associated that iPhone to his email address, which was associated with his iCloud. Question, well, when you say his email address, was there only one email address associated with this defendant? Answer, no, there was multiple. Your Honor, and then Ms. Burke says, Your Honor, we would raise an objection here as to this being improper opinion and no foundation. The court, well, lay a foundation as to where the information was coming from and how And okay, so then question: how did you determine the defendant in fact had multiple email accounts? Answer: I authored a search warrant to Apple requesting information. So I wrote a search warrant for his name, his birthday, and associated addresses that I knew, including his Texas address as well as his Los Angeles address, his known phone numbers. Wrote that information to Apple requesting any and all records, and Apple in return provided a return which identified multiple email addresses associated with those requested identifiers. Question: okay, and were you also able to determine from the records that you received pursuant to search warrants that the defendant owned a particular type or model of iPhone, the one that was connected to the Tesla? Answer: yes. It was identified as an iPhone 16 Pro. Question: throughout the course of your investigation, had you been able to locate or find that phone? Answer: not that particular phone, no. All right. So I guess they were able to find out that he had an iPhone 16 that before he stopped using the Tesla, and when he disconnected that phone, when they went to go looking and searching and finding out information, poof, they were not able to recover that device, child. Somebody said I care more about this story than Nolan. Child, a mess. They said okay, Your Honor, I have an exhibit in two parts. The first part or page I like to have marked as People's Exhibit 17A. It is titled Defendant's iPhone 16 Pro Max Tranquilizer, in quotes, disconnected from Tesla, the source being iCloud, and the date July 29, 2025 at 2:18 p.m. On this exhibit, it looks like two photographs with some inserts, close-up photographs of things on those photos. So, 4 altogether. 17B being one photograph. It says Cellbrite extraction report at the top, and it's titled Defendant's iCloud user Falloid at Gmail, FALLOIT 00112 at gmail.com. May I have those two exhibits marked? They'll be marked for identification purposes. All right, question. What page am I on? Okay, I'm on page 58. Question. Showing you the first exhibit 17A, let's focus in the right now on the photograph on the left. Do you recognize what you see here? Answer: I do. Question: what is this? Answer: this is an extraction report from Cellbrite. Specifically, one of the search criteria or areas that you can look is devices that have connected to a particular vehicle. In this case, it was his Tesla Model X identified as the device name. And then if you look all the way to the right, the source file, meaning what may have connected or disconnected to that Tesla, identifies that iPhone 16 Pro with the kind of the name as the tranquilizer. Miss Burke: Your Honor, at this time the defense would object. This is calling for improper opinion. All right, if you want to lay the foundation, Miss Silverman, sure. With regard to his ability to read extraction reports and how they have and how what they show, sure. Question: if you could tell us about your experience with cell phone and iCloud extractions and the use of Cellbrite software. Answer: so the software is when I write a warrant to, in this instance, Apple, we are provided with a certain amount of records from that in this case, that provider then in turn, we're able to take those records, put them into a readable format, which is a Cellbrite reader, which takes that kind of raw data, puts it into a readable format, identifies certain criteria, whether it be a timeline or photo or videos or subscriber, or in this case, device connectivity. And it shows that the information that was provided in that reading format. So this is a reader for raw data from a cell carrier or a social media platform. Question: in order to put, I'm sorry, go ahead. The judge, if you could please explain what your background, training, and experience as it relates to obtaining this information and being able to decipher this information. The officer says, when I write the warrant, I provide that to our investigative service section, who are analysts that take that information and they provide it into this reader. So I don't physically put it in this reader. I just take the information and look at it as it's in its readable form. So I don't do the parsing into Cellbrite. That's done by our analysts. Question: so they put it into software that allows you on your own computer at work to look at or read the information. Is that correct? Answer: yes. I'm not analyzing that. I'm looking at the reader that allows that raw data to be read versus kind of computer language, I guess you could say. Ms. Burke, Your Honor, we would renew our objection per Whitman. The 115 officer is not appropriately a reader of this information. He did not do the abstraction, did not participate in the extraction, and has certainly not presented himself as an expert on these matters. He would be simply reading the report to the court. All right, I'm sorry, Ms. Silverman. Ms. Silverman, it's not a report, Your Honor. It's a Cellbrite extraction that contains all of the information from a particular cell phone. The detective, on a routine basis, as I was just about to ask him, received these and are familiar with and an expert in how to use Cellbrite software in order to filter for particular information that they are interested in. All right, did you wish to respond? Ms. Burke, Your Honor, I believe since this officer is indicating he did not participate in the extraction, did not handle the device that was being extracted or the Cellbrite information, he would be an improper witness on the content to testify as to the content of what was found. All right, thank you. Objection overruled. You may continue. All right, thank you. I'm sorry if you want, Ms. Burke. I will deem it a continuing objection as to his testimony. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay. Ms. Silverman, question, or she asked the question. Can you tell us approximately how many times over the course of your career you have used Cellbrite software in order to examine data from a cell phone, iCloud, tablet, computer, items that would contain digital or electronic evidence? Answer: I mean, I would say it would have to be in hundreds. Every case has a cell phone, computer, tablet, or some type of device that's going to be used. So I frequently look at the reports, probably in every case, and that would be in the hundreds. Question: okay, is that something that is not decreasing, but in fact becoming more and more common, increasing in the fact that technology has changed and now everybody has digital evidence? And that is something that, as you said, is a component of all the cases you handle? Answer: yes. Question: and where do you send devices so that the information or the data contained within them can be extracted and put into readable format? So let me try to pass through this whole. Let's see what they found. All right, so they want to know, can he filter for dates, times? Can you filter for connectivity to various items? Yes. The black Tesla at the tow yard, it was a Model X. And the same document says documents if you were to print out the whole thing. Okay, so hold on. Let me skip past some of these. All right, let's go to page 66. All right, so it says, this is a photograph I had mentioned earlier of the infotainment system, the display of Mr. Burke's Tesla that was in the impound. Question. Okay. And the very first item where there is a red box and then again a line which a little call out inset below, what does that say? Answer. It says tranquilizer, and it gives the date of July 29th and identifying it as an Apple iPhone. Question. July 29th being the date that you indicated was the last time that iPhone 16 Pro connected to the Tesla? Yes. Question. Let's look at 17B. Is this another Cellbrite extraction report, or at least the top of it? Answer. Yes. From the same iCloud return? Question. And this is one is titled Defendant's iCloud Username with this FALLOIT 00112. Correct. Question. And what did you find in this particular filter of the extraction from the iCloud? Answer. So what I had written for Miss Burke's iCloud, that was one of the emails that was provided by Apple as belonging to him. I believe that one is the one that contained the most data in it. And then it had also, according to this report, associates that tranquilizer iPhone 16 to that Gmail address. Question. Okay. Now, did this Tesla infotainment system contain numerous addresses in addition to the defendant's residence, which we talked about already, that being 1368 Burial or Doheny Place address? Yes. Question. And were there any locations within that computer system or infotainment system that was of interest to you with respect to this investigation? Answer. Yes. There was a reference in the infotainment system to a charging station on July 29th. And then as the investigation kind of evolved, there was a trip identified in the navigation that showed a trip to Santa Barbara Lake, Kahuma, I think it was. Question. And within Lake Kahuma or the Santa Barbara County area, in addition to Lake Kahuma, was there also an address for navigation to a charger area in the Santa and Ynez Valley? Yes. Question. With respect to the both Lake Kahuma and Santa Ynez Valley locations, was there a location or, a time range for that? Answer. There was so on the screenshots of the infotainment system, they're identified by dates. So you had July dates, which reference the 1368 burial home address of Mr. Burke. And then in May, there was identification to the Lake Kahuma, Santa Ynez trip. Question. Okay. And you also mentioned that you reviewed a significant amount of surveillance video. Did you also review neighborhood surveillance video for the defendants around the defendant's residence from Doheny Drive? Answer. Yes. Question. From July 29th, that same date that was the last date his phone connected to the Tesla, and the same date where he went to the Ross Dress for Less that matched up to the receipt that you found inside the Tesla during processing? Answer. Yes. recovered video from a resident's address on Doheny that had cameras that covered both Doheny Drive and Doheny Place. Question: and what did you observe with respect to the date of July 29th regarding the neighborhood surveillance video? Answer: so on the camera that faces Doheny Drive, I observed a black Tesla down Doheny, a black Tesla down Doheny Drive, and as it goes out of frame, is right at Bluebird. So the vehicle drives past the camera and is out of frame. And then maybe 2 minutes later, I reviewed the camera that covers Doheny Place, which when you look at a map almost looks like an alley, but it's an actual street. You see Mr. Burke walking down that alley and into the front door of his residence. Question: when you said kind of looks like an alley, is that consistent with the streets within the Hollywood Hills area that are very narrow streets? Answer: yes. Miss Silverman says, Your Honor, I have another exhibit. It has a photograph on it with a close-up or call-out of an enlargement. So there's two photographs. It is titled Screenshot of Defendant Returning Home After Parking Tesla on Bluebird Avenue, July 29th, 2025. So if you guys have been keeping up with this case, I believe they allege that she died. Let me see when they say when did Celeste Rivas die according to prosecution. Okay, so they put her time of death at April 23rd. Okay. Never mind. All right. So, what page are we on? We on page 69. 69. 69. Okay. Anyways. It's 3:48 a.m. by the way, so don't mind me. All right. So there's two photographs. One is titled Screenshot of Defendant Returning Home After Parking Tesla on Bluebird Avenue, July 29th, 2025 at 2:20 p.m. May this be marked, please, as People's Exhibit. So marked. All right. Question. Showing you Exhibit 18. Do you recognize what you see here? Answer, yes. So to the left is that Doheny Place, a very narrow street. The residences are really, as you look at the photo, only on the right-hand side. The left-hand side is the back of the residences that are on Doheny Drive. So that's a kind of north to south look. And in the video, that's where I saw him walk down that alley. And then, question, just to interrupt you briefly, this is a screenshot from that surveillance video, correct? Answer, correct. Question. So if we look at the person that we can see just where the yellow line ends over to the enlargement or call out that we see in the right side, what are we looking at here? Answer, I'm sorry. The one on the right? Question, yes. The call out, this enlargement. Answer, that's Mr. Burke walking down the street ultimately into his residence. Okay, on the video you watched as he walked down Bluebird, is that Kitty adjacent to Doheny? Answer, yes. So you don't see Bluebird. You see where Bluebird is, and then to go from where the vehicle is parked, you have to walk down Bluebird to Doheny Place to get to the position in that photo. Question. And then on the video, you saw him go into his residence at 1368 Doheny Place? Answer, yes. Question. So you could see him walking from the direction of Bluebird where the vehicle was parked and eventually towed by the Department of Transportation. Answer, yes. So right now, it sounds like they're establishing that when that car got parked, he was the last person to park that car. I think that's what they're setting up for so far. So if you guys remember, if you guys have been paying attention to the case, before the car had gotten towed in September, or I think late August, July, from what I recall, was the last time that that car was parked, because the car had been parked for quite some time and it hadn't been moved for some time, which prompted them to tow it. And then after it got towed, then they were able to smell the decomposition, etc. If I'm following what they putting down so far. But that's what it seems like they're trying to set up for, like to let the people know that this is his car. Last time his phone connected to this car was July 29th. The last time you see the defendant park the car was July 29th. The receipt that we got from the car was July 29th. Then the same position that he parked this car, that we see him park, walk, go into his house, that is the same place the car was when we towed it and took it to the impound lot. So they're basically connecting him to this. Like he drove the car there, he parked it there, he left it there, and then the remains in the car got towed from where he put it last. Question. So you could see him walking from the direction of Bluebird where the vehicle was parked and eventually towed by the Department of Transportation? Answer, yes. Ms. Silverman, Your Honor, I have another exhibit, 2 photographs titled Defendant's Tesla Parked Across from 1405 Bluebird, Hollywood Hills, May 24th, 2025. If these 2 photographs could be marked as the People's Exhibit number 12. So marked. Question. Let's start with the photograph on the left. What do you see here from this photograph taken on May 24th? Answer. So that's a photograph that was taken by the senior lead officer from the Hollywood area, who was called out by a neighbor concerning a vehicle that had been parked in the same spot for quite some time. Question. And this is a photo of the vehicle parked where? Answer. It's parked, the address is actually on the corner, but it's across from 1405. Question. Bluebird? Answer. Yes. Question. Looking at the photograph to the right on the People's Exhibit 12, what do we see here? Answer. That's the rear of the vehicle. Photograph that was taken to identify the license plate of that vehicle and some damage to kind of the rear trunk portion. Question. Now, did you also review data from license plate readers or LPRS showing the Tesla parked at that same location that it was recovered from, where the vehicle remained after July 29th or 2025 until it was towed? Answer, yes. So I conducted a license plate reader search, which identifies when police cars drive by that area that are equipped with automated license plate readers. They able to identify vehicles. So I conducted a search from July 29th on this vehicle's license plate, and the vehicle remained in that same spot on multiple hits on that license plate reader up until September 5th, when it was eventually towed by DOT. So they're saying, listen, he parked it there, he left it there, and it was picked up where he was seen on camera driving it. Question. Now, during the investigation, you and your partner were conducting on this deceased female's dismembered in the trunk of the defendant's Tesla. Were you notified at some point that an individual by the name of Jesus Rivas called LAPD communications regarding his daughter? Answer, yes. On September 10th, Mr. Rivas did call communications, and that information was forwarded to my cell phone of my partner. So we made a subsequent follow-up phone call to Mr. Rivas. Question. Now, you testified at the beginning today that on September 8th, you were called out to this police tow yard with respect to a deceased female being found in the front trunk of a Tesla. Answer, yes. Question. So when you went out to tow yard on September 8th, were there media cameras and media attention that day or following that day? Answer, there was. Yes, there was media, helicopters during our investigation. And then as that vehicle was being towed away, there was attempts by media to follow that impact. Question. When you say towed away, you mean as you caused to have the Tesla towed from the impound yard to the Piper Tech for processing? Answer, correct. Question. And the media attention that was generated, did Mr. Rivas tell you that he had observed the media attention and or the coverage and that he was concerned that perhaps the unidentified decedent in fact was his daughter? Your Honor, I believe this calls for hearsay. Calls for what? Miss Burke, hearsay. All right, people. Miss Silverman, I think the detective testified that he's been employed for 26 years. Miss Burke, I don't believe this was personal knowledge. He didn't interview the witness. Can you do a read back? Sure, I can rephrase, Your Honor. All right. Question. So after you were notified that Mr. Rivas called LAPD communications, did you eventually speak with him? Answer, yes. Question. And did you also speak with or use his son as an interpreter? Answer, yes. Question. Okay, and did Mr. Rivas communicate with you that based on the media attention that he suspected that his daughter might be the deceased female in the front trunk of this Tesla? Answer, yes. Question. Were you also provided with 2 phone numbers for his daughter? Yes. And did you write search warrants for both of those phone numbers? Yes. One of those phone numbers, was that 951-550-3160? Yes. And the other one, 951-546-3161? Yes. Did Mr. Rivas also indicate to you that he suspected that she had a third phone number, which he didn't know that was purchased for her by a male? Answer, yes. Question. Given the condition that we discussed with respect to the decedent that you observed in the front trunk of the black Tesla, did you ask Mr. Rivas for contact information for his daughter's dentist? Answer, I did, yes. Question. And did you provide that contact information for his daughter's dentist to the medical examiner's department? Answer, yes, I did. I provided that information to the investigator, Betsy Magdaleno, who was attempting to make identification of the unknown female at that time. Question. Did Mr. Rivas also provide you with the name of his missing daughter? Answer, yes. And what was that? Celeste Abigail Rivas Hernandez. Question. Now, you also told us earlier that you determined that the defendant had a local residence, that being the 1368 Doheny Place location, correct? Answer, yes. Question, did you serve a search warrant at that location? Yes. And when did you do that? I did that when she was identified on the 16th. We served a search warrant on the 17th of September. Question, the following day? Yes. Your Honor, I think it's a Google Maps depiction or image titled Defendant's Residence in Hollywood Hills, 1368 Doheny Place, Los Angeles. May it be marked? It's marked. All right. Question. Now, looking at the People's 19 to the right of center, there is a red arrow with a white home that appears to be an upside down triangle in shape. And just above it, it says Defendant's House. Do you see that? Yes. Is that the location that you served the search warrant on September 17th of 2025? Yes. Question. If we look to the bottom left corner where you see Bluebird Avenue, which is upside down, and above that, it says Tesla parked. Is that the location where you observed the Tesla was previously parked on Bluebird that we looked at in some of these other photographs, and that the senior lead officer had identified as a parking location previously? Yes. Did that line up with the same location where from the Department of Transportation towed this vehicle the beginning of September? Yes. Of 2025? Yes. When you served the location, did you have assistance from other detectives at LAPD Robbery Homicide Division? Yes, we utilized our division along with several criminalists from our Forensic Science Division. Question. Okay, from the laboratory, correct? Yes. Your Honor, I have another photograph. Do you recognize this location? I do. And is that the location where you served a search warrant on September 17, 2025? It is. And the front door of the entrance area, do we see that depicted in this photograph? Answer, yes. In the kind of the lower right-hand corner, as you zoom in, there is a security gate. Behind that security gate is the door to enter the residence next to three separate garage doors. Wait. Anyways, all right, next. Question. Okay, and so the garage door closest to the front entrance with this gate is open, correct, in this photograph? Correct. Is it a 3-car garage? Yes. Okay. She has another photograph. All right. So, in this next picture, can you tell us what we're looking at? Answer. You're looking at a straight on shot of the front of the residence. You can see the address identified above the mailbox at 1368. You have the security door, the front door, just a couple of feet behind that. And then the open garage door with the red Tesla that is backed inside. Question, did you determine who that red Tesla that's backed into that first garage was registered to? Answer, yes. It was registered to a Robert Morgenroth. And did you determine who that person was in relationship to the defendant? Answer, yes. Through our investigation, we determined that Mr. Morgenroth was kind of the manager, personal assistant of Mr. Burke. Question, now when you go into the garage, is there a brick floor in the garage? There is underneath. There is rubber mats over the black floor. Question, like black rubber exercise mats? Yeah, kind of like interlocking, square shape, interlocking rubber mats. Question, did you collect any evidence from the interior of this residence? Answer, yes. And what was that? Answer, there was a bunch of evidence that was recovered by our forensic science team And then there was additional devices, computer towers, cell phones that were recovered from the interior living area of the residence. Question, did you collect an iPhone from that upstairs den area? Answer, yes. Question, and was that in fact an iPhone 16 Pro that we saw that was connected to the Tesla or some other phone? Answer, no. It was the iPhone 15. It wasn't the iPhone 16 Pro. Your Honor, I have 2 exhibits. I like them to be marked, blah, blah. All right, so we're going to stop here. This is page 79. I'll continue the rest later. And you know what? Right when I was like, you know what? I'm about done. One of y'all commented and said, go to sleep, child. I must be looking tired to y'all. So anyways, we're going to stop there, but you guys let me know what you think so far. Is there anybody who's up right now that wants to come up and give your opinion? If so, click the link. If there's anybody that's up right now that wants to speak about like what you heard so far, what you think, I think he's cooked, but he has very, very expensive, highly trained lawyers. And even with all of the evidence, you know, they work with what they have, but sometimes they can poke enough reasonable doubt that they could probably pin this on someone else. So my guess is his best bet with what we've heard so far is that they pin it on the manager or pin it on the friend, whoever that Asian guy was or whatever. My guess is that they're gonna try and pin this on someone else. But you guys let me know what you think so far in the chat. If you want to donate to the channel, you can donate here at Cash App NiqueAtNiteMedia. You can also follow me here at NiqueAtNite_. And I'm also over on Facebook as well. This stream is mainly over here on YouTube, but I'm also streaming right now on Facebook. But other, you know, y'all can hop over to whichever is more comfortable. But I'll catch y'all later. We ended at what page did we end at? Hold on. We ended at page 79. All right, so I'll pick up there on the next live, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.